Welcome back, producers. This is FL00. This is the Johansson Sample Library project. You're going to learn how to use the sampler, and you're going to learn how to do some basic things in FL Studio. We're going to set up our browser so that way we can get to all of the Johansson samples. And we're going to talk about what the transport control can do and how to use the playlist arrangement window. Lastly, you're going to learn how to change your samples around just a little bit and how to submit a project to our Schoology assignment. To do that, you simply save it as a FLP, a FLAC, and an MP3 file. All right, that said, let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to open up FL Studio. If you've never opened up FL Studio before and you have it installed, the way you can do that is simply pressing the Start menu, or down here you can click on that Start menu or type right here where it says Type here to search. We're going to type in FL, and you should see FL Studio pop up. When we click on that, you should see FL Studio open up. And here it is. Very familiar sound there. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. So we're going to go up to File and New from Template. In New from Template, we're going to go to the Minimal section, and we're going to pick Empty, which is basically the very, very bottom one. Totally empty project. It should look like nothing. And if you press F12, you should have a totally open and clear desktop here. We're going to talk about the different windows that are in FL Studio. The first thing that's important to know is up here you have your main windows, which are all right here. You have your arrangement window, which is this button right here. If you click on this button, it'll show up. If you click on it again, it'll disappear. You have your playlist window, or your piano roll, which is right here. You have your channel rack, which is right here, which holds all of your instruments, and that's shown here. And you have your mixer, which is basically putting all those tracks together and changing their volume and their panning and adding effects, which is over here. So these are the four main windows that you're going to use in FL Studio. There's a few other things that we need to know how to do too. Mainly, if you click on something like right here, this is your browser. This allows you to see anything that is happening or any files that are used in your project. You can also use the browser to find files, which is what we're going to do today. Just so you know, if you want to know how a window works, FL has a great manual system. To use that, all you have to do is you click on the window that you want to learn about, in this case the playlist window, and I press F1. If I press F1, it will open up the FL Studio online manual, and it'll open it up to the page of the window that you were just looking at. So in this case, it's going to look up the playlist window in the image line manual. So this is how you can find very quickly how something works in FL Studio. Keep in mind the reference manual has all these different pages over here on the left. So if you're wondering how to do something like making music in FL Studio, then you can simply click on any of the windows here, press F1, and then this user interface is here for you to be able to look through the manual very quickly and easily. So that's how you can find information on something in case you don't know how to use it. You can just read the manual, pretty easy. Let's talk about how we're going to use the browser here. So FL Studio, if we press F1 here, let me show you some of the things that are in FL Studio. Looks like my internet is not working properly, so I'll just skip that. What we're going to do first is we're going to set up our sample library here at Johansson. So we have a sample library that's already made for you. If you click on the File Explorer and you go to this PC, you should see this Johansson Video and Technology drive. If you double click on that, then you'll get this this window, these various things. We're going to click on Shared Resources and then Audio. If you go in here, these are all the different audio sample libraries that we have. There's a whole bunch of sounds in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this sample, the path to this area, and we're going to copy it to our browser. So I'm going to click up here where the address to this location is, and I'm going to press Control-C to copy that. Now I'm going to go back into FL Studio, and here where it has options up on the top left, I'm going to click on Options and then File Settings. When I click on File Settings, this is an area where you can tell FL Studio where to look for certain files. You can basically build a sample library. right here where it says Browser Extra Search Folders, I'm just going to click on one of these entries, double click, make it to where you can see the cursor, and press Control V to put that directory where all your samples are into our extra search folders. Now if I press close, if I close this up, after I press enter once, make sure that it shows up here in the folder area. You can close this and you're going to notice that on the left hand side, there's now on your browser, there's a folder called audio. And if you click on that, you'll see all the folders that are inside that sample library. Now if I want to go into loops here and see all the different loops that there are, I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom of this and look at the big loop section here. Should be right here, tons of loops. And if I look in here, you'll see that there's a bunch of sounds. It'll tell you what format they are here on the left. So right there, this is an MP3 file. If I click on it, it'll play that sound. All right, so there's a bunch of different sound files that are in our sound library. This isn't the only one, the tons of loop section. There's royalty pro free sounds. There's pre-made scores, templates like that. So if you're interested in finding some cool sounds, there's a whole bunch of them in here for you to play with. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these sounds and we're going to add them to our arrangement window. So let's take a look here. If we look at the arrangement window here, this is where we can place our sounds down. Now something that's very important for you to know is that you can double click on the toolbar of any of these windows and it'll make it expand to the full size of the screen. Oftentimes we'll be working with just one window at a time and switching back and forth between different windows. So it's good to know that we can basically maximize that window by double clicking on the toolbar. Alternatively, you could press the keypad enter to achieve this same effect. Alright, so I have my playlist window here. I'm going to make it full screen because that's all I need right now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag one of these loops here that I like. Alright, I'm going to click and drag this into my arrangement window, and you'll notice that I can basically put down a single loop here. So if I put that down, you'll see that it takes up some space here, and if I press play, nothing happens. Oh, that's right. We got to talk about the transport control. So the transport control is up here. This is basically the heart of how you can begin to play instruments and what have you, play everything from FL Studio. First thing you note is the play bar here. If you press play, it will begin to play. But wait, looks like it's not playing anything down here. That's because the transport control has a pattern mode and a song mode. If you press the song mode, then you'll notice the little green arrow appears down here and it will play from your arrangement. If you play from the pattern style, then it will actually play just the channel rack, anything that you have inside this pattern at the time. We'll talk more about patterns later, but for now, all you got to know is this should be in song mode for you to be able to just drag and drop files down here. So in song mode, it's going to play from down here in the arrangement window, and if I press play, you can see that it will play the song starting from the beginning. Now, notice that the timing of this is going to work for, if I played this sample by itself over and over again, you notice that it loops itself, but it's not really keeping in time down here. That's because FL Studio has everything mapped out based off of its timing, which is right here. In beats per minute, you can change this number. I can just click and drag to make it play back faster or slower. So that's basically what I can do to change the tempo. Another thing that I could do is I can right-click on this area here, and I can choose a specific BPM if I want to, or I can click on where it says tap right here, and this allows me to tap out the tempo. If I know that I want it to be this speed, I can do that. Basically, you just click on this little pad right here for every beat that you want it to go. So if you wanted a fast song, you would click faster. And if I wanted something slower, I would click slower. So there we go. That's how you can set a tempo just by tapping it. You can do either one of these by right-clicking and going to tap, choosing a BPM, or you can just click and drag up and down to be able to change that BPM. Now you notice there's a big number here. That's your main BPM. And then you can actually click on these smaller numbers to change it infinitesimally smaller if you would prefer. Now sometimes you want to have some kind of reference as to what is going on with this BPM, and that's what this little button right here is. This is your metronome. So if you click this, if I were to press play, you would hear the each beat that goes by will be accompanied with a sound. Now you'll notice that the sound that happened right there wasn't on beat. The sound of the guitar is a little bit different from what's going on with the metronome here. So what we can do is we can actually click on samples up here in the top left of the sample itself. You can click on that, and right here on the right you'll see something that says detect tempo or fit to tempo. So what I can do is I can detect the tempo of this and make my whole project that speed, or I can fit the sample to the tempo that I chose up here. So if I wanted to fit this to 77, I could click on fit to tempo, and it'll say, hey, what is the range of this current sample? It's going to give you an estimate right here, and you could put in something that is an estimate. That's fine if you click on the estimation. Usually that works okay. Let's go ahead and press play and see how it works. All right, so now I can hear that sample has been changed to fit the time that I want. Now maybe I didn't want that. Maybe let me go back. I'm gonna take this sample out, add a new sample here. If I want, I can go back over to fit to tempo, and I could I could go to detect tempo, and I can find out what it is. It says it's 52.802. So if I press OK, it'll say the tempo for this sample has been kept at that speed. Would I like to set the project tempo to this? So I am able to, if I want, fit what's going on in the project right here to this. So I don't speed it up or slow it down. It plays the sample at the original tempo, but it allows me to set the BPM of my song up here to the right speed. All right, cool. So now I'm able to match time with my samples. You're going to need to basically add 5 samples to this playlist. You need at least 5, and you need to make sure that your samples are that they're somewhat lined up on time. Now, another thing you can do is you can double-click on one of these samples, and you'll see this pop up. This is basically your sample options. And there's a lot of fun stuff we can do with this. Really, the one that you're going to want to know about right from the beginning is this length knob right here. This will allow you to change the length of that particular sample. So if you have some irritating sounds at the end or the beginning of your sample, you can change that with these little knobs here. This will change how long it is. This will change if you want to have a fade into the sound. This will be a fade out for the sound. And your trim basically allows you to cut off the beginning of the sound if there's a little bit of extra space at the beginning of it. So this will make it to where things line up a little bit clearer. So this is something that you can do just to kind of get your samples all cleaned up. You can do this with pretty much any sound that you drop into FL. Just by double-clicking on it, you'll see these properties. Normalize is a very useful property as well. If you click on that, you'll notice that the sound waves get a little bit bigger. What normalizing does is it allows the sound to be as loud as possible, so it basically boosts any of the little peaks that you have here in your amplitude. It'll bring those to the top or the loudest possible that they could be without sacrificing any sound quality. So normalize is usually a good thing to do if you want to make a sound louder, or if you want to make it seem in relation to everything else, the dynamics of the sound to be louder. Also, there's a reverse function, so if you click on that, it will reverse the sound. Pretty cool. These are the main things that you're going to want to work with. You don't have to do any mixing for this project, but if you do want to add things to the mixer, or if you want to at least change the volume level, that's also going to be shown right here on the volume controls. You can click on this volume and bring it up and down to change the volume level of the sample. And you have a panning knob as well if you wanted to pan. That's all the tools that you'll need for this particular project. Let's talk about how we can save this and play around with it after we're done. So let's say I had all my samples in here. I'm all done with it. Let's just pretend like I'm all finished. If you want to complete your project, all you have to do is go up here to File, click on File, go to Save As, and we're going to save it as an FLP file first. I'm going to call this FL00. Now that I do that, I'm going to press Save. An FLP file simply saves all of the different snippets in the location that they're supposed to be in. So it's not necessarily going to be a sound file. Really, it's going to be a bunch of snippets. It's going to save where all of the pieces go and any information that you saved in FL Studio. But I can't play it back. In order to actually play it back, we have to do what is known as bouncing down a mixdown. To bounce a mixdown file, we go up to File, we go to Export, and then we're going to go to, you can really pick any one of these, WAV file, MP3, FLAC, because it's going to give you the same thing. It's going to allow me to change its name, so I'm going to call this FL0002. I press save, and this is where you're going to get to choose what format you're going to save it as. You're going to leave these two modes usually normal. You're going to want to save. You're going to want to click on, instead of WAV, you want an MP3 and a FLAC file of what we save in this class. Where it says bitrate up here, you can go ahead and crank that bitrate all the way up to the top. We want nice, not extremely compressed MP3 files. And for FLAC compression here, you can also drag that all the way to the top here. This is just to ensure that we have really good quality sound. After you've clicked on this, you don't have to really mess with any of this just yet. I'll tell you about it later, but all you got to do is press start, and it will bounce down your mixdown file. Where does it save it to? Well, wherever you clicked right here when I started it, right here, it's going to save to this location. So I have it saved under Tunes. I'm going to change this to my music file. You might want to put it in your OneDrive under your music file because that'll be the easiest place for you to find it. Now I press save, and now you have both an FLP file that you're going to turn in, an MP3, and a FLAC file, which we're all going to turn in to the Schoology assignment. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and have a great day.